Welcome to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. This is a podcast for faithful women who want healing in their relationships, guidance from God, and internal peace. Each week, you'll hear mental health concepts taught through a spiritual lens from me, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, to help you start thinking in a higher and holier way. Welcome to today's episode. I'm so grateful for the two ladies that will be joining us for today's Sister Connection episode. Today, we're going to discuss the topic of life after betrayal trauma. So I do Sister Connection episodes to bring on women who've had lived experience in a topic that we're discussing, because I believe this is how other sisters feel connected and not so alone in their trials. So I'd love to welcome to the show Brittany Miller and Anna Harrop. Did I say that right, Anna?
Yes, you did.
Okay. I always question myself after I say it. I'm like, oh no, that was wrong. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you both here. Why don't we start off with Brittany? Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, your family, what you do?
Okay. So I'm Brittany Miller. My family and I currently live in Northwest Arkansas, and we've lived here for about 8 years, and we love it. But both my husband and I were raised in Utah, in different parts of Utah. But yeah, we currently live here. We have 4 kids. We have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and a 3-week-old baby currently at the time of recording this podcast. Yeah. So the 4th baby snuck in there, and it was a terrible pregnancy. I don't have very good pregnancies, and I was so ready to be done. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like the day she was born, I was like, I want to do this again.
Oh,
that's worn off since. But so no, we're really happy about our 4th kid. But yeah, it's been 8 years that we've lived in Northwest Arkansas.
Welcome. Awesome. And thank you for coming on with a 3-week-old baby. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
awesome.
No worries.
Awesome. Anna, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, yourself, your family?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Idaho, and then I started talking to this guy in Alaska, and during 2020, during the pandemic, I moved up here with my 5 children, and so they're currently, I have a 15-year-old, 14-year-old sons, an 11-year-old daughter, 9-year-old daughter, and a 6-year-old son. And so we're in the thick of parenting, but also I feel like I'm an adventure guide for them in this life. And so I'm constantly with them or taking them to school events and sports. And I'm going for my master's degree currently, and I'll be graduating in July.
That's awesome. What are you getting your master's in?
Psychology with an emphasis in life coaching.
Awesome.
So it's been a busy time, but I love our life. There's always an adventure out there.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, welcome. I'm so grateful for both of you for coming on and talking with us. I don't know how well known the term betrayal trauma is, so I'm going to give a little kind of definition of that if people are like, what is this? So betrayal trauma is a deep emotional and psychological impact that happens when someone you deeply trust, like maybe a spouse or a partner, breaks that trust in a significant way. And it could be through infidelity or secret behaviors, and it can feel like your whole world has turned upside down. It affects how often it can affect you, like trauma, like panic, anxiety, confusion, even physical symptoms. It's not just heartbreak. It really, truly is a trauma response. And so I'm so grateful that both of you are willing to be vulnerable and share about your experiences on this difficult topic. So why don't we kind of start there? Brittany, we'll start with you. If you want to share a little about your story, what happened, and what was the hardest part for you after the betrayal?
Okay, so my husband and I have been married almost 10 years this year, so not a whole ton of time, but my husband and I are a little bit unique. We served in the same church mission, LDS Church Mission in Nebraska. And so we actually got to kind of know each other as missionaries. And my husband was a zone leader for the better part of his mission. And in a lot of areas that I served in, it was in an area where he was like kind of a leader or over other missionaries. He's a great teacher, loves the gospel, loves Jesus Christ. I wrote in my journal that I wanted to marry someone that had a testimony of the Savior like Elder Miller did. And I did. I married that same guy. So it worked out great. But so my husband and I's story starts even when we were dating. He told me that, he wanted to have a family, and he told me kind of what his goals were in life. And then also said, hey, as a teenager, I struggled with pornography usage, and, I've been, you know, sober my whole mission, obviously, but I just want you to know that's something you struggle with.
Yeah.
And I had some, experiences with that. And, it was something that I felt comfortable moving forward in, as far as our relationship and marriage went, even though, sometimes it was hard. And then through the course of our marriage, he would, disclose to me times where he was struggling with pornography usage. And that that starts a little bit of some of betrayal trauma. When someone discloses something to you, or you find out about usage of substances or pornography, especially if you had no clue,
Yeah.
it can really feel like a rug is pulled out from underneath you. And naively, we just kind of went through the motions of trying to work through that. It looked different each time this like disclosure happened, but
Yeah.
in essence, we weren't really using a lot of outside sources. We just kind of were working out what we felt was best with us. And then in 2023, after a year of sobriety from pornography usage, my husband fell into like a really vicious and deep usage of pornography, which led him to making decisions that jeopardized our marriage and our family. And I won't go into the full details of that, but it it put things on a path where he was even unsure. He was experiencing like suicidal ideation and things like that, where he was just like, my life is so messed up, and I've messed up so bad that I would rather end my life than try to fix this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And luckily, he felt like seeing a therapist was a good idea. And so that began our journey of recovery and kind of going back. So my husband, there's been a few times where I have found out about his usage, but most of the time it has been disclosed to me. So in this case, it was disclosed to me what things had happened. And so, anyways, he started seeing a therapist. I started seeing a therapist. I also started going to a group. He went to a couple of different groups. One that was at like a Methodist church nearby for, it's called Celebrate Recovery. So it's actually a really fantastic program if there's a Celebrate
Awesome.
Recovery near a listener. But the hardest part about recovery was the different timetables that we were on. So his recovery looked different than mine. And I got really frustrated that mine was seeming to take longer than his, because I was like, I'm the victim in this situation. You're the
Yeah.
one that's doing the bad things. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
you should be punished longer, if that
Right.
makes sense. I was
Absolutely.
really frustrated that mine was seeming to take longer. And yeah, so I think that was the hardest part of after betrayal, was the timetable of it all. Because I also want to be like really in control over what's going on, and everything was out of my control. So
For
that's a little about
sure.
our story.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I really appreciate that. I'm sure that there's women listening to this that can identify with that as well.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Mhm.
Anna, do you want to share a little bit about your story and the difficult part, like one of the difficult parts after the betrayal?
Yeah. I met my first husband at BYU, Idaho. We were 18 when we met, and we were just friends, and we were in the same outdoor program together. And so we spent a lot of time getting to know each other. And then shortly after that, we started dating, and we got married when we were 20. And so we were really young. But it's what we felt like was right at the time. And during our 10 years together, there'd be moments where our marriage was rocky. For example, one time he advertised himself on Craigslist and put an ad for himself on Craigslist. And I would find out on my own about certain things he was going through. And like, I was never a pornography ish, like, I was never admitted about pornography, any of
Yeah.
that. And so then when I was 8 weeks pregnant with our youngest, I got super sick. I was in the hospital on IV treatments, and I was overwhelmed with my oldest being 8 at the time, 8 and under, or,
Yeah.
or 4 children 8 and under, and being really
Wow.
pregnant. And so I went to my mother's house because she lived close by, and like, things were just coming to a head, and there'd be things I would feel that were off, and I wasn't sure how to explain it. And like, I would try to go to enrichment, and he'd get mad that I would go to enrichment.
Mm.
And like I said, there's these little things that were building up. And then so I went to my parents' house to get help just for the weekend because he had to go out of town down to Utah for the weekend. And then I got a call from him from a police station, and he told me that the police are corrupt, and there's been a huge misunderstanding. And so I called multiple jails, and I found what one he was incarcerated in. But he ended up answering an ad to have intercourse with a 13-year-old girl.
Mm.
But it was a sting operation. And so he never touched a child, but there was undercover 20-year-old cops.
Mm.
And so he was incarcerated for 300 days.
Wow.
And so I was left to raise our children by myself.
Yeah.
So I think the hardest time, or the hardest thing I had to go through, was telling my children that he wasn't coming home.
Absolutely.
But during that time, I like, the rug came out, right?
Yeah.
I felt alone, but I felt lonely, but I was never alone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that there's more than just like one hardest part too, right? Like there's so many different facets to the situation, and probably still today, right? That different things come up for you. Anna, what do you feel like helped you cope though on some of those harder days that you were dealing with?
Yeah. So my family, my parents were helping me. My children's school teachers were helping me.
Yeah.
It rocked like our whole little town.
Mm.
It devastated his family. It devastated my family. So everybody in our community just rallied around us and picked us up.
Yeah.
There'd be nights where I'd be just shaking in bed, and my mom would come in, and Mama Bear hold me and hug me until I was done shaking.
Mm.
Another time, my now 15-year-old, he would just come and read me a story. But I would be during the day, I would take care of the things like the doctor appointments, the lawyer appointments, and then I'd come home and just rest. And so, and prayed for every guiding step, what way to go.
Mm.
But having people who supported me, and having women who went through their own personal Gethsemane come in and reach out to me, not saying how to do it, but just share their experiences and let me know that I was not alone.
Love that. Yeah, community is such a huge tool. I think sometimes we discount. Sometimes we kind of don't want to burden other people, right? We don't want to ask for that help, but inviting that community in and letting them help you can be a huge asset to that healing part.
Absolutely. And I'm still grateful. Like, they all check in on me and see how I'm doing. And
Yeah,
it's been so grateful.
that's awesome. Thank you. How about for you, Brittany? What do you feel like are the things that helped you cope on some of those really difficult days?
Perfect. I think something similar to Anna. I had a couple of people that I had disclosed some things to that were really that just reached out. Even some people that I really didn't expect to, no, like people in my ward that I wasn't really close to, but that I felt safe and comfortable sharing a couple of details with, and that just, they just reached out to me and scooped me up with open arms. And so, being vulnerable and telling people that you feel safe with, which, in my case, I really didn't feel safe talking to my family. My husband felt safe talking to his family, and so then that kind of opened things up for those discussions. But and it didn't always go super great. We told some close friends, and they just didn't know how to help, and so we didn't really get support that we needed in that regard. But other people were able to support. And then the other thing I would say is, for me, I just tried to treat each day as brand new, and not, I just told myself I didn't have to like make a decision right now. And for me, it was leaving or staying type of thing.
Yeah.
And I just told myself I don't have to make a decision right this second, no matter if it's a good day or a bad day, if that makes
Yeah,
sense, because everything
absolutely.
felt so finite. I just wanted to just keep moving, and not try to make a decision, if that made sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Not rushing things, not trying to, you know, hurry things along by making decisions and just allow that to happen. So
Yeah.
thank you. So I know with betrayal trauma, that sense of like the rug being pulled out from under you and then feeling like safety sort of has been taken away too can be really difficult. What do you feel like? We'll start with Brittany. What do you feel like is something that helped you start feeling safe again and heal, either within yourself or your relationship? Like what helped kind of move it forward for you?
Yeah. Um, Boundaries.
Yeah, I love that.
Boundaries are really important.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of a specific example. My mom brain is so bad right now, but
you're good.
like, just, boundaries of, even with things like disclosure, as my husband was going through his healing process, I told him, for instance, like I wasn't mentally ready or prepared to learn about any more pornography usage during his healing. That was something he needed to talk to his therapist about. Even though, the curiosity and things like that, a lot of people, if they find out about a partner's um, internet behavior that's inappropriate, they'll often try to go through their phone or things like that. And luckily, I had really gotten into therapy pretty soon, and include in a women's group pretty soon, and learned that things like that were just like self-sabotage. And
Yeah.
so I learned how to, you know, find peace a different way. But prioritizing my own healing
Mm.
um, was really, really important, and something that people kept saying, either in group or in therapy or online even. um, they would say, like, you can be okay no matter what your partner or spouse does. And for a while I was just like, no, you can't. Like,
Yeah.
you're always going to be affected by them. But really diving into that and learning that my own peace and healing was important to me, and that I was going to be okay no matter what choices my spouse made. Um, that was that really helped me feel safe, and it really did help that my husband was on the same page as I was, and that he prioritized my peace as well. So if I
Mm.
told him, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to sleep
Yeah.
in the same room as you, then he was okay with it.
Yeah.
I can see how it would be very, very difficult and it wasn't okay. Let me go back. It wasn't always perfect, and it wasn't
Yeah.
always like that. There were
Yeah.
lots of times at the beginning where there was a lot of contention, but eventually it became where he respected my boundaries and let me do healing on my own time. So that was great.
I love that. Yeah, it's that codependent cycle we can sometimes fall into with our healing, right? That in
Yeah.
order for me to heal, I need you to do certain things, right?
Yeah.
I need you to do this for me in order for that to happen. And it sounds like when you separated that and set that boundary and said, no, you do your healing, I'll do my healing, and I don't need you to do certain things in order for me to heal. I'm gonna choose to do that on my own, that's when that peace and healing started for you.
Right, exactly. And then even, no matter what choices he made, and even things like parenting in general, like maybe he made a parenting choice that I didn't love.
Yeah.
But whereas before that would have really, really thrown me for a loop and kind of set me in a spiral, I was able to sort of separate that and just go, it's not my job to
Yeah.
fix you. Like you have to fix yourself. So that was important for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. How about for you, Anna?
Um, I think with my process, I'm kind of grateful how it happened is because I would hear news, it would come in waves. And so it'd be just these small little steps at a time. And then I focused like, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Um, my focus would be for a while, it wasn't to jump into a new relationship at all. But I was looking for friends to talk to because going through that trauma, people didn't know how to talk to me anymore.
Yeah.
They'd have questions, and it's like, no, I want to feel normal again.
Yeah.
I don't want this. That's my trauma is not who I personally am. Um, and so I remember my children playing and laughing easily, and that helped. And it would be these small moments where I'd see even just a sunrise or a beautiful sunset, or um, being in the garden with my mom helped a lot too, and seeing the beauty of the earth around us. Um, but again, it would come in waves, and then I would deal with the emotions, and then I would just be able to take a step forward and coming or appreciating those small little moments helped a lot. And then when I got, because I knew before I even could get into dating or into a new relationship, I had to be ready to go.
Yeah.
And my partner would have to be ready to go too. And so once I got remarried, that was a whole other Pandora box because you're going back into that relation or into an environment that hurt you so bad before.
Yeah.
And so that's taken its whole other healing process in itself. And something I learned in therapy was because I was actually going to school and studying, and my therapist was like, well, quit figuring out why you feel this way or how you got there. Just feel those emotions.
Yeah.
And that letting those trying to, because we like to analyze as women, we try to understand why or where it came
Yeah.
from or how did I get triggered.
Yeah.
But having those feelings, it's like you're not fixing what you feel.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have those emotions. And that was huge for me.
Yeah. There's something we say in trauma informed care or trauma work is it makes sense, right? Like it makes sense I'm feeling this way. It makes sense that this is happening, my reaction given the circumstances that I've been through and just offering yourself that self-compassion, right? Like makes sense that I'm feeling this way and it's okay. It's okay to feel it, not necessarily trying to dig down, right? And figure that out. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. Um, so I think there might be women that are listening to this and maybe experiencing this. They could be anywhere on the spectrum of where they're at in their journey with betrayal trauma. And Anna, let's start with you. Like, what would you say to a woman who's maybe just found out about the betrayal and feels like her life is completely shattered?
Realize for her to realize it's not her fault. Even though she's there and it affects her, it is not her fault.
Mm, I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. You can feel all sorts of emotions, right? And that can swirl around, but I think that's an important piece for sure. For sure. How about you, Brittany? If you could say something to the woman that's listening that's just kind of found out about this in her life and is feeling very overwhelmed and confused.
Yeah. I would probably say that every emotion that you are feeling or could feel is normal. If you feel numb or angry or, vindictive or like you want to take revenge or things like that, those are all normal feelings.
Mhm.
So, um, it's okay to feel that way. Um, and another thing, I think once you once you experience betrayal trauma and you get to open up about it, other people will start to open up about it as well. And it can be really tempting to compare stories and compare pain and maybe even put yourself down like, oh, well, I didn't experience that. And so maybe I should just not feel as bad or something like that. But
Yeah.
everyone's pain is personal and, theirs. When I was in a women's group and we were all sharing our stories, I experienced that a lot where I was just like, well, at least my husband didn't meet up with people in the Walmart parking lot or things like that.
Yeah.
But I was just like, you know what? It's still traumatizing. It still hurts really, really bad. So I would say not to compare pain. Um, and then again, just you don't have to make a decision right this second. Um, there's a lot of emotions that are going around, but I think even if this is something that is like reoccurring behavior and you can kind of see where you think it might go, it's okay to not want to make a decision right that second, to continue to focus on yourself and prioritize your healing and your peace and make decisions as they come instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater or saying I'm going to push through this and I'm going to make it. I think you don't have to do either one of those. You can just go
Yeah.
as you please.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Sometimes trauma makes us want to go in the extremes, right? Like this all or nothing. And just recognizing that and acknowledging, there's a lot of emotions going on right now. We don't have to make major life decisions and be able to just kind of move forward one small step at a time. I like that. Thank you.
Pain doesn't last forever.
Yeah, say that again.
The pain doesn't last forever. It goes
Mm,
away. Might be slow, but it goes away.
that's so good I think, for people to hear, right? Because when you're in it, it can feel like forever, right? I think like Brittany with a newborn, it can feel like you're never going to sleep again, right? When you have that newborn stage, it's like, how do I live like this the rest of my life? And then you get through it, right? And they start sleeping in. But pain is the same way. And when you're in the middle of it, it can feel like that's going to be your life forever,
Yeah.
but healing can
Well,
occur.
like in nature, there's times and seasons, and nature never has the same time or season in one year. And this
Such
time
a
and
good,
season in your life might be so hard right now, but it's not going to last forever.
such a good point. Such a good point. Thank you for sharing that.
Another little nature analogy that some lady told us in group therapy. She talked about planting peonies or peonies. I think it
Yeah,
depends on how you say
yeah,
it, where
yeah,
you live.
yeah,
But peonies or peonies, they
yeah.
take like forever to grow. Like you'll
Oh,
get a bush for a couple of years before you even get a flower.
wow.
So, it's just like she said, like Anna said, it's going to take time and you're still going to have to nurture and you're still going to have to push through before you'll ever see a flower. But the flowers will come.
And yeah, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not occurring. Like the process isn't occurring for that to happen too, right? Sometimes we want to see the end. We want to see the result. We want to see the happiness and the joy again in big ways, but it is occurring when you're doing the healing work. Uh, So true. We'll start with Brittany with this one. What do you feel like brings you hope now? You're on sort of the other, I don't know if we would call it the other side of it, but you've had some experiences where you've had some healing. What brings you hope now?
Like, are we talking about like hope past betrayal trauma, or are we just talking about like hope in general?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah. I think when we have experiences like trauma, it can pull us back sometimes. Trauma is one of the identifiers of trauma is that we feel like we're back in that situation, that it's happening again. And sometimes we can get pulled back into that hopelessness. So, what do you feel like kind of brings you out of that and gives you hope to keep going and moving forward?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I guess I would be lying if I said that I'm like confident that everything will be okay from now on. You know,
Mhm.
I can still say like, oh, but what if, what if something like that happened again? Or, I can even imagine like if I, left this relationship and then got in a new relationship, the it would still be like this dark thing in the back of your mind, like what if blah 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 happened, or
Mm.
certain things can be triggers, and you would, that stuff doesn't magically go away after you've done healing work. But I think now, after having gone through it, I'm much more confident and hopeful that I would be able to get through it again, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, I, I'm feeling way more like spiritually in tune, I guess. I think one thing too that happens with betrayal trauma is like kind of you just get numb to everything. And
Yeah.
even things like people, you know, maybe spiritual messages or something, they just don't resonate anymore because you're just like, I can't feel anything. But
Yeah.
my I'm beginning to feel hope through the gospel of Jesus Christ, and my relationships with others, and just trying to bond and minister with other women. I think those things bring me a lot of hope.
I love that. I love that. Anna, what do you feel like brings you hope?
Where my specific situation is like I'm come out of the other side, and um, that healing is possible. That hope for me is if, like, say, if my life got turned upside down tomorrow, and that nothing I've or everything I've gone through, it wasn't wasted.
Mm.
Um, God hasn't forgotten any of us. He only sees us and strengthens us when we need it the most. It might not be on our timetable or how we thought possible, but having hope, God is looking out for all of us, whether he sends his earthly angels or his heavenly angels. He's not done yet. You're not done yet. I feel like I'm not making sense. I'm
Yeah, it
sorry.
absolutely makes sense. No, I love that. I love the concept of, I think sometimes we get in this mindset where it's like I've been through this hard thing and I want hard things to be over with, right? And I want to be done with hard things. And what I hear you saying is like, even if something hard comes again and I deal with that again, the things that I've experienced, I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to take that resilience that I learned and gained from this other experience, and I'm going to apply it to this one, and I will still feel the savior in my life, and I will still feel good again, and I will still feel hope again, and I will come out of this just like I came out of it before. And so it's okay to live in this moment and enjoy this moment that I have right now, even if I go through and experience another trial again. Yeah. And I think that's important for people to recognize, because sometimes it's like in trauma, we want to get to that point where nothing else bad happens again. Right. Um, and that if something bad does happen or something difficult or hard experience that we have happens, we can make meaning out of that, right? Like maybe I wasn't healed all the way. Maybe, we when we try to do the what ifs or the bargaining and all of those things, but life is really about opposition, and we're going to continue to experience opposition in our lives. And each time we experience that and we learn from that and we grow, and especially if we choose to um, grow our relationship with the Savior because of that trial and that experience, we become the people who we're meant to become here. And we're going to have more opportunities to have opposition and more opportunities to strengthen that relationship with our Savior through that and because of that. And so hoping that we can get to a place where opposition doesn't occur is kind of a false thought that we can get to, right? And can feel very disappointing if we get there. So that's a very important point that you bring up with that. So thank you for sharing that, Anna. Thank you. Awesome. Any final words that you guys want to leave with anybody about your journey, your healing, or just thinking about other women who are going through this, Brittany?
My husband and I talked a lot about how it would have
we were like, wow, this would be so much easier to go through all of this if we didn't have kids.
Mm.
And not just because we're like thinking about the kids, but the fact that you have to be present and like emotionally secure for children can be really, really, really difficult when you're going through betrayal trauma and when you're trying to prioritize your own healing. So I would just say if, women are worried about that, I would just say be patient with yourself. Um, uh, Share how you're feeling with your kids in an appropriate way. Just, you may be like, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed today. And so I've been a little short with you and I'm sorry. It's not your fault. You're not in trouble.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything wrong. I'm just a little bit overwhelmed today or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you don't have to fix it for me, but just wanted you to know that's why I'm a little bit struggling. And then you'll find that kids are really resilient and they're like, oh, okay, I don't really care.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, just if you're overwhelmed about that, just hang in there. We're all trying to do it together.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
So listen to yourself. If your body wants to rest, then rest. I like to do personally, like if I know, like, because there's some things I'm still dealing with.
Yeah.
But like I make little small moments, I romanticize my life.
Mm.
So like a bathtub, I have special bath bubbles or bath bombs, or I have like a special glass with a drink, like a root beer or something, just a little apple cider.
Yeah.
Um, I like to learn new things every season. And I take each season as a healing for my journey.
Mm.
And you're not done, like she said, you're not done yet. But if you find ways to bring happiness and joy, whether it's mixed CDs or a fun podcast or a book or learning how to paint or
Yeah.
growing a garden and you fail, that's okay. You've tried it. Don't be afraid to try new things in your daily life.
I love that. I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you guys so much for coming on, sharing your stories, being vulnerable. I think all of your thoughts are so helpful to anyone listening to this that has experienced betrayal trauma in any way. So I'm so grateful that you guys would come on and share your stories. Thank you for listening to the LDS Mental Health Podcast. I hope you were able to find ways of healing, guidance, and peace. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend who would love to start thinking in a higher and holier way as well. Or hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any episodes. Also, check out the links in my show notes for other episodes you might like and links for other mental health resources on my website.